Oh man, getting Valakut triggers is just one of the best things in the universe. Hello and welcome, guys. We are here for the next league, and this time we're doing something quite a bit different. We are playing some straight up green-white Reclaimer. It's not that often that I play a Primeval Titan deck on the channel that does not include Amulet of Vigor, but alas, here we are, and this is one brewed up by yours truly. There are some inspirations taken from previous green-white Reclaimer lists, particularly when it comes to some of the sideboard construction and whatnot, but yeah, we're playing some Reclaimer, trying to see if this one is still competitive after the field banning. In fact, the banning of field is what inspired me to play Reclaimer, believe it or not. I never really liked the Reclaimer lists before that were all focused on powering out Field of the Dead. It felt a little too mid-rangey to me, and as you know, I play Amulet for the combo feel of it. I like being able to go off with Amulet. And so with that in mind, we are playing a list that's very combo-centric around Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. In fact, the list that I'm playing currently has 3 Valakuts, just naturally drawing Valakut in this deck. It's very good, and we'll get into that in a minute. But we do have one Vesuva to act as a potential 4th Valakut if we need it, and I think that 3 is about where we want to be right now. But make no mistake, this is very much so a Valakut and the Molten Pinnacle combo deck. There are ways to win outside of Valakut, and one of the main ones is the 3 Tireless Trackers that are in the main board. As I said previously, Reclaimer was a very field-centric deck, and that late-game engine that was not reliant on any kind of 2-card combo like Dryad and Valakut, or the newly included Prismatic Omen and Valakut, these are a little shoddy to rely on against a control deck that can answer your creatures very easily and can bounce your enchantments and counter them on the way back down and that kind of thing, leaving your Valakut to do nothing. So obviously in those matchups, we need a plan, and Tireless Tracker is the plan. 3 mana 3/2 that basically allows us to draw a card for every land that comes into play after Tireless Tracker is in play, making a clue that we can sacrifice to draw. And it happens to be a very good threat in and of itself, because every time you crack a clue to draw that card, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So this spirals out of control very quickly, and in the late game, I could easily see slamming a Cavern Naming Human, putting a Tireless Tracker into play, uncounterable, and just drawing a bunch of cards with a bunch of uncracked fetch lands or multiple lands for turn with Dryad, that sort of thing. You know, activating Reclaimer immediately to get tracker value. This deck has a lot of ways to do that. So that is the main late game plan here, as of course we can always just attack with Primeval Titans and win the game that way. And everything else is mostly standard. There is one card or 2 cards really, that I've chosen to include that were not previously seen in Reclaimer lists. The first one is Lotus Cobra. This is a 2 mana 2/1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. This is a very interesting inclusion in the deck. As I was playing and testing this list in preparation for potentially making a video if it turned out to be good, spoiler alert, I found that I like this list quite much. But I found that the deck was often lacking good 2-drops, and I tried Explore, didn't really feel like it fit. It was very competing with Reclaimer and Eladamri's Call, and the deck is very mana hungry. And I decided to give good old Lotus Cobra a shot. This does some very interesting things. For example, you can play it on turn 2. The likelihood is it'll just die, so I frequently avoid doing that. Playing a Lotus Cobra on turn 3, then playing a fetch land for turn, all but guarantees that you'll have 3 mana immediately, 2 off of the Cobra itself, so it immediately pays its own mana value back. And then it allows you to do things like activate Reclaimer with a Flagstones for free, as the Flagstones will search for a land, and then Reclaimer searches for a land, getting 2 triggers out of the Cobra, and immediately getting your 2 mana back, something that the old Reclaimer lists never had access to, sort of like a Aether Vial sort of effect there, I suppose you could say, where it lets you activate Reclaimer and get another spell cast in the very same turn. Cobra does that. It is very good with fetch lands. For example, on turn 2, if you play Cobra, turn 3, you can play a fetch land, float a mana with Cobra, tap out for a tracker, leaving the fetch uncracked, so that way, once the tracker resolves, you're guaranteed to get 1 clue of value from it. That does come up on occasion. And also, if you wait until turn 3 to play your Cobra, you can play the Cobra, play a fetch land, make your 3 mana, play a Dryad, play another land, and play a 2-drop like an Eladamri's Call or a Prismatic Omen if the land you play enters untapped, or even play another 3-drop if you have another fetch land. So Cobra stacks up exceedingly well in this deck. It's not the best late-game top deck, and so for some reasons, we may end up boarding out Cobra, especially against these, like, Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt kind of very removal-heavy strategies, in which case we want to bring out Cobra in exchange for having more impactful cards like perhaps Path or Purge or Veil of Summer, and at that point we just want all of our cards to either be threats like Reclaimer or get immediate value like Tireless Tracker or Primeval Titan. Yeah, we're playing all the standard stuff for a Reclaimer deck. We do have the one Blast Zone, one mainboard Bajuka Bog, one Ghost Quarter, plus Ramanop Excavator in the sideboard for the Tron matchup. I've chosen to play one Castle Arden Vale. This is a land that is able to pump out 1/1 white human creature tokens. This is going to be very good against the Death Shadows of the world, assuming they don't team or battle rage you. It's going to be very good against the control decks that want to pressure you into committing to the board and then slamming a Supreme Verdict. Well, guess what? Just search up an Arden Vale with your Reclaimer whenever you get the ability to do so, and then just start making 1/1s and force them to commit the Supreme Verdict on your terms. It's a little slow. It's definitely a poor imitation of Field of the Dead, but we do have it here nonetheless. We are playing one Radiant Fountain for the burn matchups. All the fetch lands to go along with our Cobras and our Tireless Trackers, of course. Yeah, this deck is very synergistic. In the sideboard, we have a couple bullets in Aven Mind Sensor and Eidolon of Rhetoric and Obstinate Baloth, Ramanap Excavator, and Thrun the Last Troll. All of these have very specific decks that they are targeting. Aven Mind Sensor is for the opposing Primeval Titan matchups, specifically Amulet. It's mainly for those Primeval Titan decks, but it does have some splash hate. Eidolon of Rhetoric, of course, specifically for Storm, as Storm would usually be a pretty bad matchup for us. I mean, we can Reclaimer out a Bajuka Bog to slow down their Passing Flames plan, but Eidolon definitely puts a stop to their deck. Obstinate Baloth for those aggressive red matchups where gaining life is very good. You can also pitch this to a Liliana discard trigger or something like that against the black mid-rangey decks. Excavator, again for Tron, so we can loop Ghost Quarter and keep them off of late-game mana advantage, if at all possible. And then Thrun, here for the control matchups particularly. I suppose you could bring this one in against the black grindy mid-rangey decks, since you can regenerate Thrun, but it's mainly there for the control decks, as we do need some help against control. We also do see two Veil of Summers for those control decks mainly. Damping Spheres for the Storm and Tron matchup, two of our worst matchups on Reclaimer, of course. Some Purges to deal with Blood Moons, Liliana the Veil, any kind of red or black permanent that we don't want to have to deal with, Death Shadow as well. And then Path to Exiles against those creature combo-y decks, but also against the Shadow decks where we just want to keep them off the board. Anyways, that is a lot of words for a deck that you probably just want to see in action, so I'm going to go ahead and fire up a league here. Let me know what you think about the deck in the comments below, especially at the end of this league. If you have any thoughts of how to improve it, or whether you think this deck is good or bad, then I am all ears. I also have received a few comments about potential decks to play in the future, including Amulet in the style of Yusa Monit, which is something that I do have planned, and that's coming down the pipeline. Also, a suggestion to try Adventurous Impulse, which I think has quite some merit to it in this current meta, so these are some ideas that I've received. If you have any ideas of your own, then let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I do plan on taking those into consideration and probably playing a few leagues in the future with them. Alright, we are here for the match. So far, I've been playing this deck mainly in the two-player queue rooms and free-to-play rooms, where it seemed pretty good there. So I don't know exactly how this will stack up against quote-unquote real modern decks, but we'll see. We are immediately greeted with a very slow hand. It does have Flagstones, and we can play a turn 2 Omen, which is not the worst, but not the best, as it's not really impacting the field. It does set up pretty well for our Valakuts, though, so depending on the matchup, Omen could be anything from redundant to the best card that we could have, especially against the black decks that can get rid of our Dryad. They'll just lose to our Valakut eventually, thanks to Prismatic Omen. But we're on the draw. We have Titan and a Dryad already ready to go. This hand's pretty close, in my opinion. I am going to go ahead and keep it, I think. It's very close, though. We have Cavern against a control deck if our opponent happens to be playing some sort of controlling a deck. And if not, then just hopefully a turn 3 Dryad into turn 4 Titan will be good enough, assuming we can get there. The best top deck would be a Elvish Reclaimer, by far. Turn 1 Arbor Elf. Interesting. So potentially some kind of Ponza deck, or Blood Moon deck as well. Definitely going to keep those in mind. We'll play out the Heath here. Usually I would hold the fetch lands for use with Lotus Cobra, but in this particular scenario, I could easily see us needing to fetch a basic Plains. Probably Plains over Forest, as we have quite a number of basic forests to draw here. 4 versus 2. Our opponent is playing Catacombs and passing? Attacking, huh? Weird. Maybe this is more of a devotion strategy than like a Blood Moon Ponza strategy. Not really clear. We're definitely just slamming Omen here. This lets us play around. Actually, I suppose it doesn't play around Blood Moon all that well. It means that our basic lands can tap for any mana of any color once they play a Blood Moon. Doesn't really help with our other lands, though. But at least if we just have 2 basic lands to play, the Knight of Autumn can kill a Blood Moon. Also, our opponent's not shown us any red mana so far, so I don't know if I want to play around Blood Moon. I'm just going to go ahead and get a Temple Garden and play the Omen on turn 2 here. I think it's probably worth it. Of course, unless we draw something else that we would want to play, like a Reclaimer, perhaps. Cobra, maybe. Maybe. Foothills. Alright, well, yeah, let's just play the Omen. Pass it back. Our opponent does have Stomping Ground in their deck, so maybe we need to be playing around Blood Moon. Might have been better to play and crack the Foothills for Forest here, so our opponent could play Blood Moon and then we slam Omen afterwards, reactivating all of our lands. Pillage. That's fine. That's totally fine. So we are playing against the Ponza deck. They just happen to be playing Catacombs, which makes sense. Probably need to go ahead and get that basic land into play. Elvish Reclaimer is very good. So let's go ahead and play that one. We'll play out our Foothills. Now we have a 3/4 Reclaimer right off the bat. How about that? Things are actually looking pretty decent this game. If our opponent doesn't have the Blood Moon especially, then we're doing quite well. Even if they have Blood Moon, we can still use Reclaimer to go and get our second basic and Knight of Autumn away the Blood Moon, so probably no big deal at this point if our opponent has Blood Moon. I just realized I was putting our Reclaimer at unnecessary risk by having yielded. If they had a Lightning Bolt for our Reclaimer, then we would have just F6'd through that. Alright, so Huntmaster's not a big deal. Let's just go ahead and maybe even save the fetch land. I don't see a reason to crack it immediately. Yeah, let's just untap and draw. Alright. We can either activate Reclaimer here or play a Dryad. I'm not really sure which one is going to be better either. I think the Dryad is going to be redundant with our Omen already in play, enabling Valakut, so I think it's fine to just play a land here like the fetch land again to help play around Blood Moon and then just pass back, planning to activate Reclaimer. I don't really see a problem with that. And then the turn after, we can play Dryad plus be able to activate Reclaimer. Or we can search for the one Castle Garenbrig and just slam Titan, probably. We'll see what our opponent does. Just playing it safe, playing it slow, playing it cool. And fetch these for probably basic lands. Our opponent transforms. Well, that's not going to be able to kill our Reclaimer thanks to these fetch lands, so let's go ahead and get that out of the way. 2 damage. You got it. Bolt Reclaimer, huh? Well, we definitely want to get this activation out of the way, so let's do that. I think we're just going to set up the Castle Garenbrig here. So off of our flagstones, let's just get a Temple Garden. Not paying the life. And here we get Garenbrig, and we're able to just slam Titan with Valakut active this upcoming turn. Seems pretty good to me. Getting double Valakut would be 12 damage, so that's not enough to actually kill them, so we'll just end up wiping their board, but that's probably fine. Yeah, especially with our opponent at 1 card left, I think that that pretty much seals it. We don't even have to crack this fetch to cast our Titan. Maybe we should anyways, though, just so that we can cast Knight of Autumn. I think it's probably worth it. I'm going to go ahead and fetch out the basic here, just to be uber safe. If our opponent would let this resolve, there it goes. Alright, Titan incoming. Another basic land. I don't know if it matters what we play here. I'm going to play out the basic land, I think, just in case our opponent does have that Blood Moon that we were anticipating. Here comes Titan, getting double Valakut, ready to mow the board down. Definitely getting rewarded for having played out the Omen early and held up the activation of Reclaimer instead of the Dryad that we could have played. And I think from this point, we basically just win. Even if our opponent has Blood Moon, it's, like, not good enough here. Definitely kill this Huntmaster. Definitely kill their Mana Dork, and might as well hit the Wolf. Actually, I don't know if the Wolf matters. I'm just going to point one up at them. Goodbye, opponent's battlefield. Pass it back. Oh, man. Getting Valakut triggers is just one of the best things in the universe. We win the game. Cool, cool, cool. Let's go to sideboarding here. Obviously, we're going to want Purge for our opponent's inevitable Blood Moons or whatever red permanents they might have. Path, probably not the most relevant. We could path our own creature for a basic, but I don't know if I care too much about that. Excavator letting us play fetch lands from the graveyard might be good against their pillage effects, but I don't know if I'm super worried about pillage in all honesty. Maybe I should be, but I'm not really. Damping Sphere would be good against their Bloodbraid Elves, perhaps, but I don't think it's necessary in this matchup. Baloth seems a little unnecessary. Maybe the Excavator is good. If we see things that we need to path, then we'll pivot from there. Our opponent's a Lightning Bolt deck, which makes me want to board out the Cobras. I think that's a pretty safe call. That said, we don't really need Bojuka Bog, so I'd rather have a Cobra than a Bog, probably. Cavern is a untapped source for Reclaimer on 1 or Cobra on 2. We only have 1 Cobra left, but that's cool. Maybe Cobra's really good against their land destruction plan, though. Now I'm thinking about it, Cobra's actually really good against them having a Blood Moon, since we can just make colored mana through Cobra triggers anyways. So we probably do want access to Cobra here. Tracker seems pretty decent. I don't know. I don't know if we need 3 trackers, though. It's kind of a lot. We're not really grinding very hard in this matchup. Spring Bloom lets us fix for basic lands for Blood Moon, so I like that one. Could potentially trim a Valakut here. I don't think that's necessary. Call seems good. It's a little hard to cast, though. I'll trim 1 call. And maybe even 1 Titan, as we don't want our hand gummed up with a bunch of 6-drops, but I don't know. I'm not convinced on that one. Let's just trim 1 Cobra to shave against the bolts, and that's fine. I mean, our opponent is probably going to bolt Reclaimer on sight and leave our Cobra alive anyways, so I don't know. Maybe shaving Cobra is not even correct. Doesn't matter. We have a turn 1 Reclaimer. Does that mean this hand's a snap keep? I mean, any land lets us play turn 3 Dryad as well. And we can get a basic land to play around Blood Moon a little bit. On the draw as well. I think we keep this. It's a little slow, but I mean, turn 1 Reclaimer is the fastest thing this deck can actually do, so our opponent's probably mulliganing to Blood Moon as we speak as well, so if we could top deck a basic Forest or a non-Windswept Heath fetch, so we can keep this one to get a basic Plains, I'll be very happy. Speaking of Windswept Heath, actually, I'll take a second Heath as well. Alright, let's go ahead and get this Reclaimer into play. If they bolt it, so be it. That was going to happen regardless. If they don't bolt it, then we can play our Heath and fetch and then get a Reclaimer activation, potentially. Here comes the bolt. Yep. Sorry, Reclaimer. You had to go. It was the only option. Sorry for all the abrupt cuts, guys. I've been having a couple interruptions here. Castle. We could just play out the Valakut. If our opponent has Blood Moon, then we're going to need to have Fetch, though. Especially since the castle will now enter untapped once we get a basic Plains. This lets us play turn 3 Dryad anyways, so might as well just play out the Fetch here. Again, playing it uber safe. After we get our basics in play, we will most definitely be jamming Dryad, regardless of whether our opponent has a Blood Moon or not. Here comes the Moon. Let's get our basic Plains. Cool, cool, cool. We were prepared for this. Now we can play the Valakut anyways. There's a Dryad. Here's a Foothills. Pass it back. Now if we top deck a Eladami's Call, we can set up to get rid of our opponent's Blood Moon. Choke. Yikes. Well, that makes this Dryad feel really dumb. I mean, just a couple land drops will be able to cast Titan, I guess. Was not expecting Choke, that's for sure. At least we could still cast the Knight of Autumn to kill Choke anyways, though. Probably need to kill Choke more so than the Blood Moon. Our opponent is pillaging our Wood of Foothills. Oh, Celestial Purge is pretty good. Alright. Let's swing. Shame that Purge can't hit Choke. I think the Choke is more important than the Blood Moon here, in all honesty. Scavenging Ooze. Sure. It's just one creature in the yard here. I think we do go ahead and go for the Purge. So that if we do top deck something to kill the Choke, then we can just do it immediately and have all of our mana unlocked. Flagstones, okay. Oh, we're getting Valakut triggers as well. That is exceedingly relevant. That's even more so a reason to go ahead and purge the moon. I'll take that. Get that Scavenging Ooze right out of play. Swing in with the Dry. Our opponent could have exiled the Reclaimer with Scavenging Ooze and at least gained a life. Maybe they were still assuming they were under Blood Moon operations here. Tracker. A little far from casting that one, but I mean, we'll keep playing here. Our opponent has not yet put anything into play to kill us, and even so, we can still just top deck a couple lands, cast a Tracker, and see where we can go from there. Fetch land is just lethal at this point. Alright, fetch land. Lotus Cobra. Okay. That one's not bad, though. If we can get that one into play, then we'll be quickly ramping up to bigger threats. Pass it back. We're just killing our opponent with lands and a Dryad. Just the classic, you know? If our opponent loses to this, I will be appalled. They're now dead to a single land, thanks to them fetching. Definitely was not a free fetch there. Utopia Sprawl. It's not going to be your savior, unfortunately. Right, land off the top. L-A-N-D, let's go. It is done. Are we really winning the match this way? This is just rude. Lotus Cobra 2 OP. Definitely that match was won by Lotus Cobra and not the 3 Valakut the Molten Pinnacles we're playing here, so we can naturally draw them just like that. Oh boy. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that. Hopefully you got a taste for the deck here. Didn't get to show the power of Lotus Cobra just yet, but I guarantee you that one's coming in another match in the future. Save that one for later, and let me know if you enjoy this deck. Obviously, I do. I don't know, there's just something satisfying about Valakut triggering your opponent to death. And yeah, I have nothing else to say. I'll see you guys in the next match. I almost said league. I'll see you guys in the next match. This is Red Face Menace, signing off.